All right, new year, new WWE. See how we did that there. Well, that is it. Yeah, that would be an E. I was like a little crooked. Anyway, so with the new year rolling in, I was like, hey, WWE. I was like, there's a point where they started turning, learning from your past, trying to try out new things, do have some switch up or whatnot. So these are the things that I think WWE need to do. At least fix up a bit, tidy it up, put that band-aid on it, whatever, in 2025. Let's start off with a big gripe that I feel like everyone wants to talk about. These long title reigns. I don't think that these title reigns from after WrestleMania, I think we could stop with them being as long. We sort of thought we were sort of getting that with Priest because he only had here for like 4 months, but I get it. They're trying to establish him as a main event guy. And I was like, Cody's going to have it for the whole year. That wasn't going. We sort of knew how that was going to be. But I think from here on out, I was like, I think we could sort of switch those belts over a bit. We got a lot of people sort of at the top or whatnot. I was like, there's interesting ways to also sort of do that as well. Like say for instance, I would like say for instance, I was like to me somebody like Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn can win the main championship basically at a transitional champion for somebody else, but he can have it for at least two pay per views. Two pay per views. No, there's no need to. You don't need to establish Sammy as a worker or whatever like that. He can lose. It's fine. But I'm saying I'm just using him as an example. I was like Jay sort of the same way. Like, yes, we would love for him to have. I was like that's a title, but I don't think he also needed for a long title reign. Whereas somebody like Punk or Drew, I think they might need it for a long time, depending on who else is their matchup. Like, I feel like the matchup can also dictate with the story. You don't have to just be like, LOL, they won kind of thing, where it's just kind of like, oh, well, that just happened. Another thing I think I was like they need to do in 2025, at least I was like fix, get right, is the John Cena Farewell Tour, because it's going to be an emphasis on him retiring. Where every pay per view he probably going to be there. I was like, I don't know if he's going to be there like every Raw or SmackDown or whatever. He might be bouncing between both, but he is going to have matches. And the thing is, which direction is we going to go? Are we going to go with him putting over talent a bit? He already has done that. So I was like, but now there's different talent here as well of like who he actually really gets to fight with. He's actually sort of probably taking it more seriously. Is he going to be vying for a championship? Like those things, I feel like you got to get it right with him because you don't want to do so too early or too late, or have him lose, but somehow he still found himself in the championship match. I think that's going to be the whole point of figuring that out, especially on our way. I think it'd be a little bit easier after WrestleMania, but I think on the way to WrestleMania, that's where it's going to be, because everything's going to be so top heavy in a lot of ways for a lot of things. I was like, I want to say I was like, I'm trying to figure out how to say with the women's division. And I was like, this might get cleared up more after we get the title stuff with Liv and Rhea. I was like, Nia Jax just lost to Tiffany, so we got that ordeal out the way. I was like, we're trying to still do these mid card championships, but I guess basically just sort of have them something to do on a constant basis. Give them some type of something that should be story of the year, or a feud of the year for both. I was like, have something for it. You're gonna have to have something for the mid card, which is basically, you know, we want to say that shakeup has to go. But I was like, do a little bit better with the women's or whatever. They can have a main event night kind of thing. Um, I was like, basically, I was like, you know what? After all that, is really kind of just sort of just making sure you don't striking while the iron's hot on things. And the reason I say that is like stuff like Chad Gable. I think the Wyatts. I was like, not that they're a big deal to people, but A Town Down, that's sort of just been going back and forth. I was like the Judgment Day that slowed down. I was like, I was like, keeping stuff like you're not gonna like. I understand it's hard to keep everything red hot during the whole year. I was like, it's just difficult, but at the same time, all these shouldn't have all dropped the ball. You get what I'm saying? Like, it shouldn't have been all of them that had just fell by the wayside. That's a little bit too much. So I was like, something also got to stay hot. Which me in that case, I was like, it shouldn't have been that difficult. Of at least the Wise, I feel like that one's a little bit more tricky than say Chad Gable. You know how that was. Um, but yes, have something with them. Uh, I was like, whoever you sort of just have strike while I had. They did that a couple times, like Braun Breaker. They struck while he was getting there, and guess what? Look where he's at now. So I think that's a big deal. Their tag division, really, to be honest, is like, well, I was like, I won't even say tag division. I'll say balance amongst the brands because I think while it did take a while, I was like the tag division was better on SmackDown. I think the women's division area was better on SmackDown for upper and mid. I was like the I was like the men sort of did. I was like did lack, but it did come on strong in towards the end. And I was like, you could sort of say that after the priest early Gunther, I was like then it sort of fell off. But I was like Cody, even though it wasn't that great at the beginning, I was like it was still solid with Uh, AJ matches, and then also him facing Gunther and stuff like that. Bloodline was in there, so there was still story there. So I was like, SmackDown had a really lot of good stuff going on. Where Raw, granted, I was like, it's like, but I was like, it wasn't Gunther, but it was like, it was CM Punk and Drew. So that's not CM Punk and Seth. So I was like, you had stuff away from all these titles. Braun Breaker probably is like the only store that you sort of like had that didn't have the titles or whatever. The tag team division with the Judgment Day was just kind of like so more balance amongst the brands. I was like along with the tag and all that other stuff. In that sense, this whole Netflix ordeal also because I was like, it's a new. I was like, you're on a new brand. I was like, new audience. I feel like I was like getting this right at least, or at least in the early on, just because like you're going to end up waning. I was like, now granted you're on Netflix, so it's like, hey, your people are already there, but you want to at least early on get them to where they're able to stay at least a little while after, like anything, any business at some point business wanes where it's just kind of like it can be really hot and then it's going to be a little bit of a dry season. So you want to make sure that at the very beginning you want to have everything going smoothly, right, picking the right options and stuff like that, just because you want that early on amount of people that will be like, oh, that will stay long enough, or at least later on, if they sort of looking at it, checking in, checking out, they sort of keep intact a little bit with it. You seen that sort of last year WrestleMania when people were coming back and they were just sort of like catching up. They didn't have to watch the show. They were just over here to tuning in every bit, so the kind of stuff that I was like, that's you at least want to grasp more of those people in. Cause I was like, yeah, they might not be watching the product dedicated to it, but at least they're still checking in on it. At least they're still like over here like, oh, I like that person and what they're doing. Okay, awesome. And last but not least, I think I was all joking. The biggest gripe at the bottom is also I was at the top. Is also at the bottom because hey, we making a sandwich here, and like I was like, I love you solo. It's the music. I think the music. I was like, I think this is the last year with it. But I was like, the music. I feel like it has been a big gripe because, and I'm not talking about the people that be over here like, oh my god, why are we over here with the rapidy rap music? I'm not talking about those people. Now I do think that everything doesn't have to be rap, but everything doesn't have to be metal. I was like, I think that their choices in the rap music hasn't been good either because I was like, the thing I will say of metal over rap is the energy that metal immediately gives off. Now that doesn't mean that everything needs it because sometimes metal is just there and it's just kind of like, why the hell are you screaming right now like this? It's just me. But I do think that they don't get enough rap that has that energy, that feel to it, or whatever. I was like, they sort of want something that could sort of be in the background. In a lot of cases, I was like, yeah, but there's sometimes where you just want to come out and just be like aggressive with it or whatever. And also too, I was like, people are really good at mixing music nowadays. I was like, You can sort of use any type of music also on top of that too. I think it's really just more the state of like the new music. Well, speaking of, I'm talking about Def Rebel and all their music, cause for the most part, it's been toilet water, and I'm talking about after you haven't flushed. Because most people sound about the same. There's nothing really distinguishable between them, except for the fact that you just like, oh, is that them saying their own words to this, which a lot of people do at the same time. I was like, I will also give someone like the jumbotron stuff as well too. That I'm like, I was like I like that. I like that there'll be some difference of like a video package or something like that. Like KO really the only one that got anything like that. Everything else is just like their name. Ha 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 ha. I was like, colors, something that don't make any sense up there. Like I mean, I think it's cool, but then Andrade little like cybernetic little look like you over here got the VR robot thing. Um, but yeah, uh, as an honorable mention, I was like, I'll put it like on the side of that sandwich and some chips is the NXT call ups because I think there's going to be a really good crop coming up of whoever they choose, and you don't want a Carmelo Hayes them, you want a Braun Breaker them. I was like, you want a Lyra Valkyria sort of in the middle, and Blair Davenport and Kiana James away. I was like, and speaking of away, I was like, well, Cameron Grimes wasn't really a caller with this group, but you sort of get what I'm saying. I was like, Dragunov, he got hurt, so incomplete. Anyway, let me know what y'all think of what WWE needs to switch up, change up, all that stuff in 2025. I think they still got it. I was like, 2024 was a goodish year or whatever. Now, looking back with hindsight, that is like, oh, they can make some improvements. Anyway, let me know what you think. Until then, peace out.